Hello everybody, welcome back to another weekly market review for F45trading.com. This week we are looking at October 12th to the 16th, 2020. So before we get started, let's just fire into the economic calendar real quick. And first off, I'm just going to say thanks for your patience with this weekly review. I know last week I was absent because I took an extra long weekend, and then by the time I got back, markets were already well within the throes of the weekly range, and so I didn't bother to put out a recording for everybody, for the public. But obviously my members, we jumped right into the live sessions as soon as Tuesday London Open hit. So we had actually a half-decent week last week, more so towards the end of the week. The first part of the week was a little choppy, but this week I'm thinking that we've got a pretty nice direction going in the US dollar. I would like to see that continue. Now, as far as news goes, we do have a holiday Monday for the US dollar and the Canadian bank holiday as well, too. It's Thanksgiving in Canada this weekend, and where I'm from, so I had a couple of turkey dinners, my family, and then the in-laws as well too, so I am full to the brim of turkey until Christmas. So thank God that's over. And then we've got the US is celebrating Columbus Day on Monday as well too, so the markets could be a little bit slow going into Monday, so definitely you're going to want to exercise some patience. Now, going into Tuesday, we've got some medium impact news events that shouldn't push the markets around too much. We are getting some CPI news, which definitely can be a little bit volatile, but I don't think there's going to be any major surprises, any major whipsaws or anything like that we got to worry about. Then going into Wednesday, more medium impact news, and finishing off the day with some Aussie high impact news event. We're going to see the Aussie really start to move. The Aussie is actually showing quite a bit of weakness currently against the US dollar, and it's looking like they are starting to increase their unemployment numbers here. So you can see minus 35 from the previous last week's forecast, which is pretty major, and then they went up a couple of points here on their unemployment rate as well too. So I think, and if I'm not mistaken, and maybe some of you guys from Australia can tell me if it is locked down again down in Australia. I should say over in Australia. I say down because I'm up in Canada, northern part of the world. But just let me know, maybe just reply in a comment if you could, to this video if there is a lockdown. I haven't done any research because I'm thinking that would obviously be contributing to these numbers here. So if that's the case, then I think we're going to see some continued weakness in the Aussie. But that being said, AUD-USD, it's going to see some strength, especially if we see the US dollar starting to decline this week. It will push the Aussie up by default. But again, just let me know on that if you could, because I want to check the futures contracts on these on the Australian dollar and see what it's doing. Thursday, we've got some more medium impact news events for the dollar, and then Friday wrapping up with some high impact core retail sales and retail sales meeting minutes. So we've got going to have some movement probably on Friday, but all in all, it's going to be a fairly muted week economic news-wise. And sorry, I have a little bit of trouble with that statement. But I don't see any major volatility is basically what I'm trying to drive at this week. Now, keeping that in mind, just remember, we are about 2 weeks away from that election, and if you don't think there's a lot of volatility in the markets, then obviously you didn't see what the S&P, well, the indexes basically in the stock market did last week when Trump came out and announced that they weren't going to be going ahead with that additional stimulus package after the U.S. House representatives had approved, I think it was a $2 trillion surplus, or excuse me, surplus, a $2 trillion stimulus package. And then Trump came out about 4 hours later and said, nope, not going to happen. And then the markets went reeling. And that was for everybody who was living under a rock. That was this right here, this whole movement straight down. Stimulus package was announced during the day, right in here. all is good. Trump comes out, no way, not going to happen. Runs all the stops above the market, smashes price down, and only to gain that and a whole bunch more the rest of the week. So pretty impressive where we're at on the S&P, to be honest with you. It's made quite the recovery after the big dip in September. So very cool to see. Going to be interesting to see what happens when price gets up to this level up here. Let's see if we see another sell-off, or if that offers resistance, or if we're going to see them try to make new highs. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump does something to come back in and say, look, the stock market's at all-time highs, everything's going awesome. I'm obviously good for the economy. Just right before the election, S&P's making all new highs, and he gets reelected or tries to spin his campaign off of that anyway. And then I wouldn't be surprised if the market's dumped after that. But that being said, I think there's a very good chance that we're going to see new highs on S&P towards the end of this month and into next month before that election. So we'll see what happens there. But anyway, U.S. dollar. So last week, as I said, we had a bit of a mixed bag early in the week. We had Monday shooting down, Tuesday making up some ground, Wednesday doing nothing, Thursday doing nothing, and then Friday they just let the air out of the bag, so to speak, or the air out of the balloon, and price had a huge down day, one of the biggest down days since end of August in terms of onto the downside. So I had a target of 93 even, and we just missed that. The low on Friday came in at 93.03, so I was off by 3 pips. No big deal. I think we're going to probably see continued bearishness on the dollar. Now, at the end of the day, if price is going to be breaking higher, I believe we would have done it in this range here. Coming down and consolidating. I believe if it was going to break higher, it would have had to do it there and essentially treat these old highs back in here as a level of, support essentially. And we should have seen price run higher. Obviously, we didn't get that with Friday's big sell-off. And so that's what I was waiting for last week, was to see, are we going to break out of this chop to the upside? And obviously, you can see the downside prevailed. The bears got it. So 93 was the target. Just missed that. I'm expecting them to shoot lower this week and run under these lows here. So I'm going to bring this guy down and have a look in this area here, more particularly 92.50, right in around there, nice even number, as a potential downside target on the dollar. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't bang up a little bit higher and smash back into the lows of these candles here. They may not. They may just elect to just drop it straight from here. But keep in mind, tomorrow being a holiday for the U.S. dollar, Monday, Columbus Day, we're probably going to have an inside trading range. Might get a little bit lower, but I'm not expecting fireworks by any means. But I would like to see if we could slightly run back higher, back up into this range here, and then fall over, and then really make a big run for these lows here. That's what I'm looking for on the week. And like I say, a potential of 92.50 for a downside target on U.S. dollar. Now, if we get that, obviously, then we're going to see some upside on EurUsd. I like these highs here at 118.70. More than likely, we'd probably run a little bit higher, probably up to the 11900s would probably be the target I'd be looking for. Want to see price stay above this level here. And again, we had the same chop sideways. Absolutely brutal market to try to trade EurUsd last week, except for Friday. We actually picked up a very nice trade on Friday in EurUsD, and actually thanks to one of our members, pointed it out to me. We saw a nice pop up, and I'm looking to see that continue. Now, similar to what the dollar had on its chart, I'd like to see if we could get price to run lower into here and then run a pop up into there. I don't want to see price get back down into this range. More specifically, if price can stay above that 117.60 level, So this candle right here, essentially, I don't want to see it go below the close of this candle here. So the close of that came in at 117.58. So like I say, about 117.60, I'd like to see if price can be defended. And then if it does want to stay above that and not want to trade back down into this range, then I believe we're going to see 11900, certainly 11870s hit this week. So that's what I'm looking for on Euro. GbpUsd, we had something very similar. Now, I was actually hoping that GBP would have fallen off, and all of these highs in here defended a little bit longer. We all knew that they were going to run these highs. That was no secret. I think anybody who's been listening to me long enough knows that those areas are obviously in jeopardy and more than likely are going to get run out. But I kind of wanted them to build up the suspense on it a little bit more, and possibly run lower and hunt these stops here before they did shoot up into there. But it is what it is. They got up there nonetheless. That's why that big X was there, and that's been up there for a very long time. So we can finally check that off now. We've got a nice range in here where I think price is easily going to expand into. Now, we did see price drop down. We gapped down a little bit on the day. You can see that right there. That's the hourly chart at the time of this recording, which is pretty much Monday at midnight. We had a gap to start the Sunday trading, and the price has kind of been going sideways since. But I fully expect them to fill that gap in. Now, what I wouldn't mind them doing, to be honest with you, is get that gap fill and then shoot lower. And I kind of like the areas, I kind of like this area right here. That's why I have this blue line on it here. Watch this area. If they do start to fall off after closing that gap, I'd be looking to target either this high here, which I'll extend that out. Between this high here and this line here is where I'd like to see them bring price back down. Again, see some form of support, and then get a run to the upside and close this level in. My target on the week on GbpUsd is 131.40, and that's not very far away. Obviously, that's easy pickings. I think 100 pips from current location. It'd be probably close to 200 pips if we saw price run down. Probably 150. What would that be? Yeah, close to 200 pips, 180 to 200 pips if we did see price run back down into this range here. Don't want to see it go much lower than that. The close on this candle here, the close on this, the open on this candle here, basically right in this area. You can see that. I can even bring a line in here for you guys, make your life a little bit easier. Right there, that's my line in the sand. I don't want to see GbpUsd go any lower than this area right here. So as long as we defend that, I think we're going to stay bullish. And again, I think 131.40 is going to be the target for the week. UsCad had a big sell-off, and much bigger than what the US dollar did. You see the US dollar, we had one big sell-off day last Friday. UsCAD really capitulated to the downside Thursday and Friday, and even Wednesday after it ran above those highs there. So beautiful sell-off. I actually wasn't watching UsCAD because it kind of, UsCAD is trading in a bit of a range that I really didn't care for, and I didn't do a lot of trading on this, or haven't done a lot of trading on this pair as of late. So it's kind of one of those ones I've been sort of watching but kind of haven't been watching. And I certainly didn't really pay any attention to this artificial move up here. Had I probably would have noticed that it was a very, very bearish signal, and price started to move the other way. Obviously, the trade wouldn't have been until the Thursday, of course, once price swept down here after Wednesday closed. But nonetheless, that would have been a beautiful potential 140 pip trade on that. So we did take out these lows here, so that objective has been reached. I think this area is definitely going to be in trouble for this week here, but as with the dollar, there could be a little bit of a retracement to start the week out, and we could see higher prices before we do end up running lower. That is ultimately what I would like to see. We do have a little bit more range to go on this pair than any of the other ones in terms of retracement early on in the week. But nonetheless, I think that this is a viable option here, and I'd be waiting to see if we do run back up into this area here this week and then possibly sell off, and I'd be targeting downside locations. Now keep in mind, there's really no news at all for the for the Canadian dollar, so it could be a little bit slower this week. Not a lot of volatility, and especially tied in with the US dollar, of course, back with my earlier comments of, you know, a fairly quiet week. We may not see big runners or big ranges on this pair this week, but nonetheless, it's something to keep on your charts. Australian dollar had a nice run here. Very similar to the USCad, except in reverse, of course. We had Tuesday come down, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, really making up for lost time. Had these highs labeled on the chart here. I was waiting for that to happen. And again, same thing. It didn't expect a big pop-up like that. And I was actually expecting a little more downside on Aussie. But nonetheless, we did get some movement higher. Don't want to see price go down any lower. Definitely don't want to see it come down here. Would like to keep the open of Friday intact, so I don't want to see price roll below that. If we do, then we could come back lower than here. But I think there's a very good chance that Aussie could see highs or prices above these highs by the end of the week. That comes in right about there. So 0.73, we'll call it about 73.50. So it's about 120 pips away. Would be a nice little range. Again, very similar with what I was saying with Euro. We did gap down to start the week, and we could come down a little bit lower, maybe somewhere in this range here, and then a potential move to the upside would be what I'm looking for. I'm watching these levels here. If price goes lower than that, then again, I'd be very cautious. Don't want to see them come below Friday's open, and hopefully we'll stay bullish on Aussie and see this 73.50 level get taken out, and then some. We could even make a run for this high here. Ultimately, right, we've got very long-term highs back in here, which if we really start to get movement down to the downside of the US dollar, we could easily target for Australian dollar. Okay, very beautiful technical range in here too. After we saw this big run up, a nice retracement back down, smashing back into these old highs here, and now we're seeing price run to the upside again. So as long as we see US dollar continue its descent, we should see Aussie run higher. Okay. Crude oil, really quickly, I had a target on crude oil of $40 after this big run up into here. You can see these candles. We made an interim high here, came all the way down, failed to take a low, shot straight back up and just crested above the bodies of these three candles here. That would have been Thursday, Friday, making the high. And then obviously we had a big quick sell-off, and now we've seen price starting to open up weak as well too. We do have a little bit of a gap to start off the week. You can see that that's right there. I'm expecting them to fill that. Would not anticipate them going much higher than that. If we start running back above into this range here, I'd be a little bit concerned that possibly, you know, they may really come back up and try to run into that aggressively. And also, as I mentioned before, just keep in mind that there is a hurricane off the coast of Mexico there, so they are shutting in some production in anticipation of that, so that could artificially support prices. I'm not suggesting we're going to be up into the 60s or anything like that, far from it, but we may stop from really capitulating lower in oil for the time being. But ultimately, I just don't see how oil could be supported at these levels until they clear up that supply glut that they've got going on. And so my call still remains down here in the high 20s, low 30s for crude oil. Okay. I think there's a good chance we're going to get down to here this week, so I'm going to drag this. My target on oil this week is 38, basically the high of this candle back in here. So 38.60, you know, 38.65, we'll call it, if I can get that right about there. That's going to be the level that I'm looking for on oil for the week. We'll see if that gets hit. Again, the storm could throw these numbers off, or excuse me, this market off a little bit, so don't put a lot of weight in that. But I think if we see the breakdown below Thursday, I think that's going to be the indication that we're going to see continuation to the downside, and we could possibly get into some shorts on that one. But just keep your eye on oil. Again, look where we are. Right, we're still in this sideways consolidation, so anything is possible on oil, and I mean absolutely anything. It could go up, it could go down, or it could go straight sideways. which is what it's done in here. So I would expect more of the same, which is why I'm not really trading crude oil these days until we start breaking out here, especially until after the November election, and more than likely into the New Year's, when it'll probably start getting into a little more heavier. But until then, we'll see what it does here this week. And finally, gold. We've got, again, very similar breakout to the upside as the US dollar broke down. Now, I've got a couple of lows on the chart here. I'm going to leave these on. 118.48. Put that in your charts. I don't think this is in jeopardy anytime soon until we get to that election. And I say anytime soon, aka the next about 23 weeks, basically, until that November election. If we do get some whipsaw like we did last time Trump got elected, what happened? Obviously, all the markets sold off. They dumped quickly, and then we had to return right back where they were, and they got even stronger. So if we see the same thing again, don't be surprised if gold comes down here for one more last pass underneath these lows. They just look too juicy for them to take this, or to not take that. So just keep your eye on that. But we had a nice breakdown, very shallow recovery, and then a retest off of these old highs, and boom, straight up last Friday. Closed this region in. So my target this week, I'm going to be a little bit more conservative and a little less bullish on gold, because I think they could keep it in a bit of a range. Keep this area on your charts, but I am bullish gold long term, as pretty much everybody else is. I would imagine you'd have to be living under a rock not to understand the relationship between gold and the current valuation of currencies around the globe. So with further destabilization and uncertainty with money supply, monetary policy, you're going to see more people putting money into gold, and the price is going to go up. Is it going to go up right away? I don't know. It may take till after the election and maybe into the new year for it to happen, but I think when we have this conversation again at the end of the year and going into next year, I think we're going to be much higher prices on gold. So we can watch for that, but we'll see what happens for the rest of the week. I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, or again, if you are living in Australia and you could tell me if you guys are still under lockdown or have gone back into it, I would really appreciate that information. And to everybody else, thanks for watching. Again, give it a like, share it out to your friends. Word of mouth works wonders for this business. I would appreciate any support you could give me. And to all my members, I will see you guys in the chat room and going live tomorrow, as always. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a great day.